So just a few hours ago, we had the Minister of Finance at Tekbe reading the budget on the floor of Parliament, and in it, the President John Dramani Mahama, his Vice Ministers of State, and all his appointees will, from 2014, take a voluntary 10% pay cut in an effort to bring down the country's wage bill, the biggest single expenditure item. Well, government in the budget has also announced an initiative to tackle the country's infrastructure and deficits.
The gesture announced by the Finance Minister, said Tekbe, in his presentation of the 2014 budget, is to demonstrate leadership as part of the several efforts to control the ballooning wage bill.
Leadership in the spirit of the partnership from whom His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, his Vice President, Ministers and appointees have decided to take a voluntary 10% pay cut for 2014. The amount, Mr. Speaker, the amount to be
Honourable members, I hope you respect the chair. Honourable members, I hope you respect the chair.
Mr. Speaker, the amount to be deducted by the Controller and Accountant General will be paid into a fund to be dedicated to a special purpose chip compound to focus on maternal and neonatal health.
He detailed how the infrastructure fund will be resourced.
The entire amount from the 2.5% VAT will be dedicated to our ongoing infrastructure and development drive. Under the proposed infrastructure fund to be discussed later.
The 2014 budget, which has been tagged as transformational budget by the Finance Minister, also highlights policies that will create jobs and expand the economy.
Now, still on the budget, the 2014 budget has allocated 136 million cedis to modernize agriculture in an effort to ensure food security. According to the Finance Minister, the sector between 2014 and 2016 will receive special attention as a priority area.
In line with the objective of
According to the budget presented before Parliament, approximately 4.6 million cedis from the annual budget funding amount has already been spent on agriculture modernization from January to September 2013. In the 2014 budget, the Food Security and Emergency Preparation Program to be rolled out will also make provision for national strategic stock for emergencies, as well as establish food insecurity early warning systems. Minister of Finance said Tekbe indicated some irrigation projects which were mentioned in the 2013 budget were still ongoing.
The Minister of Food and Agriculture, through the Ghana Irrigation Authority, continued with the construction and rehabilitation works on the following irrigation schemes: Dawa, Ave Afeniba, Tono Phase 2, Akomadan, Dawenya, Zoedam, Tangasa, and Kore irrigation projects. When completed, a total of 640 hectares of irrigation land will be available for cultivation. In 2014, government will partner the private sector to continue the rehabilitation of existing irrigation schemes to promote all year-round farming.
Also, to address post-harvest challenges and promote agribusiness, the 2014 budget has provided for the construction of 2 modern markets in the Brong-Ahafo and northern regions. Farmers are also to enjoy credit to expand their farms as government plans to scale up insurance for the sector.
The Ministry of Agri will pursue the development of modern farmers' markets, development of agricultural estates, and the scaling up of the agricultural insurance scheme. The government assistance of other stakeholders with the commercial agricultural insurance system was established in 2011 on a pilot basis and this is a scheme that will be expanded.
Though the 2014 budget did not touch on agriculture mechanization, which the previous budget indicated was going to provide 1,000 tractors, 100 maize planters, 10 maize harvesters, and several other machinery for the benefit of farmers, the Deputy Minister for Agriculture, Dr. Ahmed Yakubu Al-Hassan, said it will become a reality soon.
Those items were to come from a Brazilian facility. And as I speak to you, the Minister for Agriculture just came back from Brazil last week to finalize arrangement for those items to be coming to the country. So there's nothing really particularly exciting about coming here to repeat again that, oh, we are going to do this when.
So it's coming.
Absolutely.
The sector, according to government, is recording growth despite the many challenges, including lack of good planting materials and post-harvest losses.
And still on the budget, taxes on mobile phones, condoms and some agricultural inputs imposed earlier this year will no longer apply from January 2014. Government is to also set up an SME fund in 2014 to address the limited access to financing small and medium-scale enterprises and also reduce their cost of borrowing. These were announced by the Finance Minister in the 2014 budget.
In line with the objective of maintaining a liberal tax regime, it is proposed that the following amendments should be considered and approved by the House. The National Fiscal Stabilization Levy, which is expected to end at the end of December 2014, will now terminate as of June 2014. The special import levy scheduled to end in June 2015 will now end at the close of 2014. Further, it is proposed that the following should be specifically exempted from the special import levy with immediate effect. Agriculture and fishing inputs such as canvases, outboard motors and fishing nets, medical supplies including condoms, educational materials, and energy bulbs that were exempted from import duty under the original customs tariff.
The Finance Minister said Tekwe, in delivering the budget for the 2014 financial year, described it as transformational, highlighting policies to consolidate Ghana's middle income status. Two key funds, the Ghana Infrastructure Fund and the SME Fund, to be introduced next year, according to the Minister, will spur economic growth. The newly introduced 2.5% VAT increment will be dedicated to the Infrastructure Fund and the National Health Insurance Levy, he explained. Government in the budget has projected total revenues and grants of 26 million Ghana cedis, representing 24.6% of GDP, with an 8.5% budget deficit. The 2014 budget targets an overall real GDP growth of 8%, an end-of-year inflation target of 9.5%, and gross international reserves of not less than 3 months of import cover of goods and services.
The minority leader has described the 2014 budget as uninspiring. Secondly, the motion for adjustment of proceedings, or say Chairman Bones indicated it is a reproduction of the budget presented to the House last year.
It was the majority leader, Dr. Benjamin Kumbuo, who called for adjournment. Immediately, the minister concluded his presentation.
Mr. Speaker, we've had a very long day, and please, on your direction, in relation to completing.
The minority leader, however, said the manner in which the majority leader went about the move for adjournment in itself spoke a lot about its lack of inspiration. He charged the government to be realistic and tell Ghanaians the truth about the state of the nation. The budget also highlighted on the removal of import tax on condoms and agricultural inputs such as outboard motors and construction of new roads. Members of Parliament are expected to debate the details in the coming days. Meanwhile, Parliament has adopted a report of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee on the Petroleum Local Content and Local Participation Regulation 2013, LI 2204.
Well, we'll have to turn our attention from the budget, and as the world marks World Toilet Day today, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly wants landlords to be mindful of the law that makes it obligatory for them to provide places of convenience for tenants. Most will take it for granted, but there are lots of people who have to visit public toilets whenever nature calls. Public Health Director Dr. Simpson Enimboating says the AMA is stepping up enforcement of the bylaw, adding that some landlords have already been prosecuted for not having toilets in their homes.
Though there may not be very accurate statistics about the homes which don't have toilets, it is a well-known fact that for many residents in urban areas and even in rural communities use a toilet that's shared with other members of the community. It is the reason the provision of public toilets is an expenditure item on the budgets of many district assemblies and remains on the wish list of many communities. Director of the Public Health Department at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, Dr. Simpson Enimboating says access to toilets in the metropolis has seen tremendous improvement over the last 3 years. He, however, believes the occasion of World Toilet Day is a good time to make the public aware of the obligations of landlords.
It has worked very, very, very well. You know, when we started, many houses did not have toilet facilities. But now the good news is that many houses now have their own toilets. You know, when we started, close to about only 30% or so had toilets. Now the figure is 65 and over, and it is very encouraging. And the evidence is that, whereas we used to have cholera in those days, now we don't have it. It means that, you know, there is some improvement.
He adds that the AMA is also working with other partners to ensure that sanitation issues are properly managed in the metropolis.
We want to ensure that every house in the city gets its own toilet facility. And the PPP is polluter pays principle. We have divided the city into 10, sub-metros. Every sub-metro has been assigned with a waste management contractor who registered the residents, supply them with bins, and then collect their refuse. And we want every resident to sign on to that, because it is believed that if everybody is hooked onto that, principle, then chances are that nobody will now, dump their waste indiscriminately.
November 19th is set aside by the United Nations to change both behavior and policy on issues relating to sanitation. Matilda Wemega's report for Joy News.
So the states of toilets or places of convenience are always what to use that in the metropolis of Accra.
Let's look at the headlines again. Government announced the removal of controversial taxes on condoms, agricultural inputs, and mobile phone with effect from January 2014, and a pay cut for the president and his officials in the 2014 budget.
For government, the budget is transformational, but the minority says it is uninspiring.
And as the world marks the World Toilet Day, the Metropolitan Assembly wants landlords to be mindful of the law that makes it obligatory for them to provide places of convenience for their tenants.
Well, there's a question we want to pose for you this morning. What do you make of the budget and some of the new policy directions announced by the Finance Minister, of course, coming from the presidency, and especially those taxes that have been removed on items like condoms, and then also the pay cuts as proposed by the president for all public officials, including himself.
So send your comments to Joy News channel on Facebook and 0544334722 and 14760 on our networks. Up next is sports. Stay on.
We'll be right back. Well, let me tell you what has and is keeping smiles on the faces of many of you that Ghana has qualified for Brazil 2014. Even though the Black Stars lost the last leg of the playoff in Cairo to the Pharaohs 2-1, they qualified on the whole on a 7-3 aggregate scoreline. We'll bring you that detail as well as other highlights.
Despite the odds stacked heavily against them, Egypt showed intent from the opening whistle. But the Black Stars always posed a threat, and Mamelodi Sundowns defender Rashid Somalia shot just wide after a swift counter. Egypt, though, were more dominant, and they duly opened the scoring when Amir Zaki nodded in a Mohamed Abu Trika free kick.
Egypt have a goal. Is the miracle comeback on? It's Amir Zaki.
With his confidence sky high, the former Wigan Athletic striker was in the zone. He took a fine save by the Orlando Pirates stopper Fatau Dawood had to keep the score 1-0. The Ghana defence was constantly tested. Great work by Mohamed Salah and Ahmed Shadid Kinawi created an opening, but Salah's shot lacked the required purchase. Egypt leading by a 1-0 at the break. The Pharaohs continued their search for an improbable 4 goals in the second 45. Abu Trika showing great technique, but his shot flew just over. With the clock winding down, their task was going from improbable to impossible. Even with the Ghanaian stopper beaten, they still couldn't find a way past the Black Stars' defence. Despite their World Cup dream all but dashed, Egypt did double their lead through Mohamed Gedo. But the mood was dampened minutes from the full-time whistle. Great work by Harrison Aful and Asamoah Gyan set up Kevin Prince Boateng, who finished with aplomb.
This could be 2-1, it is 2-1, and it's a goal-scoring return to Ghanaian international colours for Kevin Prince Boateng.
2-1 is how things ended as Ghana advanced to their 3rd straight World Cup, while Egypt still haven't qualified since their last appearance at Italia 90.
It was their way, though, was a tricky Burkina Faso side who held a 3-2 advantage, and the African Cup of Nations runners-up were no pushovers. Despite the 1-goal deficit, the Desert Foxes would have been confident going into the game, having not lost at the Mustafa Chaka Stadium since 2002. Islam Slimani had a good chance to put his side in front, but he failed to trouble the keeper with his head. The first shot on target came in the dying minutes of the first half as the teams went into the break at 0-0. The half-time interval seemed to do the home team wonders as they eventually took the lead.
And there it is, the goal's been scored, Algeria, and it's Bouguera. He manages to just kick the ball past the goalkeeper from close range. And look at that explosion of activity amongst the Algerian players.
Algeria nearly scored an own goal late in the match, the uprights coming to their rescue. They did, however, go on to seal the match 1-0 and book their spot at the World Cup thanks to 2 away goals.
And it was an exciting time in Africa, and Ghana and Algeria qualifying to add to the already qualified pack, including Cote d'Ivoire and Nigeria. Well, we'll go to Europe. It was a wonder as France, who early on had lost the first leg 2-0 in the Ukrainian capital, were at their best when they played at home in Paris.
He's in the driving seat. The visitors started the match well as Bruno Alves tested out Andreas Isaacson, who responded with a good save. Despite both teams' efforts, it will be 0-0 at the break. The match came to life in the second half of the game, Ronaldo opening the scoring after a superb Yao Martino pass. The battle between the two stars was on show as Ibrahimovic leveled matters for Sweden. To make things worse for Portugal, the big PSG striker would give the home side the lead as they looked to take control of the tie. But then Ronaldo did what he does best, to level matters at 2-2. Ronaldo once again highlighted his individual brilliance as he secured his hat-trick moments later, firing into the roof of the net.
Cristiano Ronaldo! He scored the hat-trick. He's put Portugal into the World Cup finals.
The Real Madrid star almost got his 4th of the game in injury time, but he sent his effort wide of the Sweden goal. Ronaldo proved to be the difference on the night, his hat-trick securing the Seleção place at the World Cup finals.
France faced in a playoff in Kiev. They needed to produce a much improved performance to overturn the deficit and advance at the expense of Ukraine. Didier Deschamps' men certainly started well, creating a number of chances, although the execution left much to be desired. It wasn't long, though, until they found their range. Frank Ribery's shot was parried away by Andrei Piatov, but Mamadou Sakho pounced, the defender putting his side ahead in the 22nd minute. The hosts thought they'd erased the deficit just 8 minutes later, as Ribery's cross was met by Karim Benzema. However, the linesman flagged it for offside, but replay suggested he got it horribly wrong. France weren't put off though and continued to search for a second. It eventually arrived, but not without controversy, again involving the linesman.
And the flag's down this time, and France are level on aggregate. They lead 2-0. Oh, he's well offside this time. Well, perhaps things evening themselves out. He wasn't offside when he scored before, and he was given offside this time. The flag stayed down. It shouldn't have.
Ukraine created little, and when they did, it was late in the half, and France were willing to put their bodies on the line to keep the visitors at bay. Ukraine were dealt a major blow just after the restart. Yevhen Kachuridi saw yellow for the second time as he brought down Ribery, the defender getting his marching orders, effectively ending his side's chances of mounting a fight back. France were in complete control, and the sustained pressure eventually told. Sacco again involved as the hosts pulled ahead on aggregates. It was an advantage they'd maintain until the final whistle. A 3-0 win on the night and 3-2 on aggregates. One of the most remarkable comebacks ever seen, as France became the first side to overturn a 2-0 first leg deficit to advance to the World Cup finals.
Romeo, having won the first leg 3-1, Greece were looking to finish off the host as they started brightly. Jose Holebas nearly opened the scoring for the Greeks, but a fine save denied him. The team in blue did eventually find their goal after a defense-splitting pass put through Konstantinos Mitroglou. Romanian fans were clearly not happy with the proceedings on the field and took matters into their own hands, throwing foreign objects onto the field. The home side did, however, find their goal in bizarre circumstances through a Greek own goal.
Oh, it's gone in! It's a spectacular own goal that's got Romania on the score sheet.
With their tails up, Romania went in search for their second, but they were denied. Despite their efforts in the latter part of the game, it was not enough for Romania to mount a serious comeback as Greece booked their ticket to the Samba Nation.
To qualify for a major international tournament for the first time. The first leg in Reykjavik ended in a goalless draw on Friday night, with Iceland doing well to keep Croatia at bay after defender Olafur Skulason was sent off early in the second half. Minus the suspended defender, Iceland were under pressure early. Croatia continued to press forward, forcing a fine save out of Iceland keeper Hannes Haldarsson. Dario Srna's free kick almost finding a way through. Iceland's defence held firm until the 27th minute, when a cross from Ivan Rakitic was not dealt with. Mario Mandzukic was left unmarked at the far post and pounced after the cross was deflected. Croatia looked to be cruising, but were dealt a major blow in the 38th minute. Mandzukic was given a straight red card for a studs-up challenge on Johan Gudmundsson. Croatia protested, but referee Bjorn Capers stood by his decision, and Croatia finished the half leading 1-0, but down to 10 men. Despite being without their most potent attacking weapon, the hosts didn't seem to be struggling. In fact, they doubled their advantage just 2 minutes after the restart. Srna's stunning strike giving him his 21st international goal, and Croatia some breathing room. They refused to sit back and defend, and not content with a 2-goal cushion, created opportunity after opportunity. Haldarsson came to his side's rescue on a number of occasions, and like the first leg, kept them in the match. Despite his best efforts, though, the damage had been done, and his side again stumbled at the final hurdle. Croatia booking their place in Brazil thanks to a 2-0 win on the night and on aggregate.
So that's it for the highlights for the morning, and again, congratulations to the technical team and the players of the Black Stars, and of course all Ghanaians for the prayers and support. Well, Brazil, here we come.